Good afternoon, everyone. Emmanuel Dupuy with Aero Asset. We're a broker of helicopters, and we also buy and resell for our own account. In so doing, we interact with the market, and from this interaction, we extract intelligence, and we compile this intelligence. We use it internally for in-house, and we also compile it in a report, which we publish quarterly and annually. This is the 2019 heli market trends. So before we get started, I just want to make sure we're on the same wavelength in terms of certain terms, where you're going to hear all these terms that are highlighted here throughout the presentation. Retail sales is sales to end user, does not include new aircraft sales, no lease, sale leaseback, EBOs, no internal transaction. Supply is a supply for sale. Absorption rate is sales divided by supply. Liquidity lineup is a performance ranking, market performance ranking. It covers only twin-engine helicopter models that are in production, recent variants of these models that have had recent pre-owned sales activity. So it ranks these markets from most to least active. We're going to look at 2019. Based on their absorption rates, also on the sales volume of 2019, and also on their active fleet size. And MTV isn't the channel, obviously, but mean trading value you're going to hear a lot of, throughout the presentation. All pricing is in USD. So these are the models that we're going to cover in this presentation. So here we are. 2018 was a great year for pre-owned helicopter markets. So let's look at what happened last year. The market was slightly below 2018 performance, but slightly above 2017. Supply continued its decline, but the rate of decline increased slightly year over year. In 2020, we'll be monitoring these trends very closely. Will supply continue to decline? At what rate? In what segments? Why? Will sales volume erosion persist? But first, let's look at how pre-owned helicopter markets performed last year. This is the 2019 liquidity lineup. So number one in our ranking, most liquid twin-engine pre-owned helicopter market in 2019 is the EC 145C2 H145. Of the 8 C2s and T2s for sale at the end of 2019, 7 are VIP, 1 is offshore. VIP configurations are the bulk of the supply, but only represent 20% of the sales. 60% of the sales were to EMS operators. All but 2 of the sales last year were T1s. Trading range for the C2s was low 2 to low 4, and for the T2s, low 5 to low 6s. This year, I think we'll see VIP pricing fall. Sorry, Nigel, but as far as see pricing fall as other mission types continue to drive this market. Number 2 in our liquidity lineup, second most liquid pre-owned market last year was the Agusta A109E Power. The decline in pre-owned pricing over the last quarters drew single-engine owners to jump into this entry-level IFR twin. 22 retail sales last year, with just under 30 units available for sale at the end of 2019. The market fared well. Slight drop in sales, minus 2 deals year over year. Sales and return to service yielded a substantial decrease in supply, year over year, minus 35%. EMS and utility configurations represented 30% of all powers traded in 2019. Trading range was sub to high 1 million, and this is a pretty stable market, and I think it's going to stay this way in 2020. Number 3 in our ranking is the EC135, H135. Supply continued its decline, but the rate of decline in 2019 slowed by 50%, so quite a substantial slowdown in the rate of decline. Supply of low-time Pratt-powered Megas configured IFR units almost evaporated, turning this segment of the 135 market in a seller's market. 2018 had been a really incredible year for the 135 market with 33 pre-owned retail sales. 2019 saw a slowdown in sales activity, concluding at about 60% of 2018 performance. We did not see the bulk purchases last year in the 135 market that we'd witnessed in 2018. If you recall, there was a big one from Hungary. There was also buying bids from several US-based EMS operators. But EMS buyers were still active in this market last year, accounting for nearly 50% of all trades. I think in 2020 we'll see more Helionics configured chips enter the market. We think activity at the top end of the Megas IFR 135 market will remain strong, and the lack of Pratt-powered options will force buyers to look at Safran-equipped chips. Trading range last year was mid-1 to low $4 million. Number 4 in our ranking is the Grand New. Last 3 years, supply in the Grand New market has been fluctuating between 25 and 29 aircrafts for sale. Year over year, sales were stable. At the end of 2019, we had 6 Grand News and 19 Grands available on the market. Trading range was high 1 to low 3s for the Grands and low 3 to mid 5 for the Grand News. Dealer activity, which had accounted for about a third of all transactions in 2018, really slowed down last year. I think a sign that this market has stabilized. This is primarily, as you all know, a VIP market with fewer Grand New operating in EMS mission than 135, 145. But some operators prefer the lower cabin, the extra speed, the smooth ride, the wheels, the external baggage, all features of the 109 platform. And as it happens, I've got a couple of low-time EMS Grand News for sale or lease enrolled on ESP and FCP. And so, sorry, I just couldn't resist the plug, but if you want details, just let me know. 2020 will be a good year for the 109 Grand New. Grand's lighter growth rate will continue to be appealing, and scarcity of the 135, 145 market will push buyers towards the 109. So tied at number 4 is the 155B, B1, H155. Supply still low at the end of 2019. It's about 60% VIP, 9 retail sales last year compared to 7 the previous year, 2 straight Bs, 7 B1s traded. And we saw activity at the very top end of this market last year with trades in the $8 to $9 million range for roughly 5-year-old airframes and low-time airframes. The trading range was mid-1 to low 9s. And although the H155 production has stopped, we expect to see more supply enter the market as H160 start to deliver. I don't expect this to impact pricing at the bottom of the B1 market, but we'll see pricing drop at the top end for sure. Number 6 is the AW139. After several years of increases in supply, the amount of 139s for sale dropped last year, which is very good news. Sales volume continued upswing with 6 additional AW139 trading year over year. Just going back to the supply, there's, as of today, about 30 for sale with a handful of 139 deals pending and looking to close Q1. So looking back to going forward to trades, in 2019, 8 VIPs, 4 OGP, and 1 SAR configured 139 traded. 75% were long nose. OGP that traded were all long nose except 1. 30% of the trades, or I should say only 30% of the trades were sub 2009, and revenue operators dominated the purchases. The trading range was high 3 to mid 9 in 2019. There was activity in the short nose segment of this market last year for sales, and at the end of the year, at the end of last year, 13 short nose were for sale. That represented 3.25 year of supply at 2019 short nose trade levels, and that was a 50% improvement or like decline in absorption rate compared to 2018. Finally, there was very strong dealer activity and also OEM activity in the pre-owned 139 market last year. We tracked at least 5 sales involving dealers as well as OEM's in-house pre-owned department. The number 7, the 225 market. We reported deals last year in the 225 market alongside plenty of opacity. Many aircraft were idle still in 2018 and part of 19. Too many 225s were for sale and lease off market. The few deals that occurred really tested our definition of retail, and at the end of 19, many idle aircraft were back in service and more pre-owned 225s had sold year over year. This gives us more confidence in our ability to read this market. Of the total pre-owned 225 sales in 2019, 7 sold to Asia. It'll be interesting to see how this progresses next year. The trading range was mid-3 to low 7. And looking forward to 2020, we think the 225 market will continue to turn around. I mean, half the supply for sale as we speak today is deal pending or at various stages of deal, and that's very encouraging. Number 8 in our lineup is the Bell 429. The Bell 429 market saw a sharp increase in supply Q3 and Q4 of 2019, particularly at the bottom of the market. The first 2 quarters were very soft with only a couple of deals as of July 2019. This triggered price reductions and spurred buyer interest. Trading range was mid-3 to mid-$5 million. And we expect pricing at the low end of the market to stabilize in 2020 in the high 3 flat 4 range. 4 aircraft were currently deal pending at various stages of transaction as we speak. And number 9, the Bell 412 EP. Noteworthy drop in supply, a positive impact for sure in that market. The supply remains really excessive nonetheless. Much of the supply that left the market didn't trade. It was put back into service. The ones that traded, the range was low 4 to low $5 million. In the number 10, C++ market segment, one of the better, I mean, there's really not much to say about this market, unfortunately, but it's an interesting illustration, probably one of the better ones, of the impact of one market segment over another within the same model category, where in this case, excess OGP configured aircraft are really impacting VIP pricing, particularly in the C++ market segment, where 90% of the supply for sale is oil and gas configured. And so VIP sellers are already having a challenge to challenge buyer against the perception of a flooded market. The trading range for the C++, so these, I'm talking airworthy, thinking back to Ed's comments on previous panel, all these trading range are for airworthy aircraft and not for part out aircraft. But the trading range for airworthy C++ was low 1 to high $1 million and C++ high 2 to mid 3. S76D, and so these 2 models round up this liquidity lineup. Confidentiality is something we take very seriously. We don't divulge trading range or mean trading values if deals were not numerous enough. So this is the case in both these markets. I think we'll see an uptick in S76D VIP sales in 2020, particularly if Trump is reelected. But short of that, I don't have any other comments to make on these 2 markets. And I realize this is a lot of data, but I'll be available for the 2 days. We've got William Sturm and Valerie Pereira as well, my partners, who are also in the room. So please reach out at any time if you need anything. And I'll take some questions.
Okay, we've got a question at the back, sorry. You've also got a flippant one, someone asking for your best price on Slido.
Am I, yep, sorry.
Right, hi, it's
Hi.
Sarah here, Ascend. I'm just wondering, the availability that you are presenting, what are you basing that on? And the same question for the market value range.
Well, sorry, can you repeat the first part?
Where do you get the availability data and the trading range? Is that for the helicopters that you've traded as Aero assets, or is it as the market as a whole?
Right. I really wish it was all us, but no, it's the market as a whole, and yeah, it's through interacting with the market, speaking to buyers, sellers, operators, lessors, financiers.
So do you feel that the availability is that the public availability, or does that include availability that might not be out in the public market?
Right. This is only public availability. Yeah. So we don't account for off-market, for aircraft that are available for sale or lease off-market. Yeah, we don't account for that at all. Yeah.